Hey there, here I am again, Wolfster, that's my name, or the name that I go by anyway. And welcome to my channel with the overall theme of is the human race about to mature? I've said already a few times in previous episodes, I believe it is. And so this channel is about being very positive. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope you benefit from it. But welcome to episode 8. Now this one is relationships. Whoa, relationships. Now, I did speak quite a bit about relationships in episode 5, where if you haven't actually watched episode 5, it's entitled The 5 Wealths. So I don't believe in just one form of wealth, I believe in five different wealths. And I listed relationships as the fourth of the 5 wealths. So if you haven't actually watched that, I said a lot about family and family values, and so I don't really want to go over all that again, but I would love to encourage you to watch episode 5 if you haven't. Hopefully you've gone through them all and following me, but if you haven't, then episode 5 is very good. Has a lot of information in there about families, true loyal families and true friends as well. Now, what I'm going to talk about is relationships in general, and then I'm going to go on to much deeper aspects of even into the intimate relationships that we all have. That's very important as being a part of human existence, a human experience. So I'd just like to touch on, there's lots of different types of relationships. Of course, there's business relationships, which I'm not going to go into here. I could do, but I'm not. This is not what I'm about. But business relationships, in fact, some of the principles that I'm going to be talking about are in business relationships as well. But I'm going to focus more on relationships that we have with people and with things. Relationships are all around us. Literally all forms of life in some way work within relationships, even if it's only for procreation purposes. All forms of life have some kind of relationship. We see this in the animal kingdom. We see it in Africa, the herds that gather, so that there's hundreds of thousands of them sometimes, which it gives them safety against predators. We see it in birds. You ever seen an amazing photography of how birds flock together with huge flock, but they have this synchronicity where they all work as one in a relationship, and so they suddenly change direction, but the whole flock does it synchronistically. Synchronistic magic it is, the way they do it, but they're in a relationship because they become one spirit. Fish do the same thing. When predators start to come, you see it with sardines. They form these huge fish balls for protection. Because if you're on your own and there's all these predators, you haven't got a hope. But if you're one of hundreds of thousands, you've got a bit of a hope. We also see it with the predators. Predators that have a relationship, like wolves hunt in packs, cheetahs, lions, many examples of them. I could list many. But they actually work as a pack, very close relationships. They have the alpha and the beta female and the hierarchies within their within their packs. And so they have these are also relationships. We see it in the trees of the forest. This absolutely amazes me. It's really only, biologists are really only starting to find this out. But the trees, through their roots, communicate with each other. They send chemical messages to each other. So if one tree gets a disease, it will send a message, and other trees will start to form antifungals or antibiotics, whatever they need to protect themselves. And this connects also with the lichen, the mushrooms and the fungi connects, and it's all a big communication system. Shamans can actually go into a forest and feel that connection and actually communicate with it, which is an amazing talent to have. Many, of course, laugh at it, I know, if you don't understand it, but if you experience it, it's very, very real. Something else, I won't do it here now. Maybe I might some stage, but I do what's called the chant of the Sun Father. I do it sometimes if I'm conducting rituals. The chant of the Sun Father is actually based on the knowledge from indigenous people, from ancient wisdom. We see that the earth herself is a living being, not just a lifeless rock with life on it. And the sun is a living being. In fact, the whole universe, the ether, which I'm going to talk a lot about, which scientists said doesn't exist anymore because a certain scientist tried to say we can have free energy and they wouldn't have that. So they said the ether doesn't exist anymore. But it does. And I'm actually going to talk about that a lot more, but I'm not going to talk about it now. But everything, the whole universe, is full of life and in relationship with each other. I mentioned this in my last video, where I concluded with the, I'm going to say it again because I like it, Umma Takviyasan, which means all my relations. And we are related to each other. We are related to all life forms on the earth. We're related to the earth herself. We're related to the stars. We're related to the whole universe. We're also related to older races that exist in the galaxy. I haven't talked about this, but this is the first mention I've made of it. But yep, they exist, and I'm going to show that they had a very big role to play. And one day, I'm giving you a little clue about where I'm going with all of these 18 episodes, but one day the human race will join them, and we will take our place in the galaxy as the fruit of the fruit of planet Earth, not Mother Earth. We are her fruit, and we will have our role in the galaxy and the universe as the fruit of Mother Earth, and fulfill the purpose of the human race. That is all to come. I'm just giving you a bit of a heads up there. So now I'll come back to relationships. Fundamentally, we form relationships because we can do so much more connected and realizing that we are connected to other people, to other things, than we can do totally on our own. So that's the fundamental understanding of why we form a relationship. But now I'm going to perhaps draw something that I'll draw it on the board here. So relationships are basically very, very fundamentally, a bridge. And a bridge, all bridges, so let's say we've got a cliff here, and over here we've got another cliff, and something wants to get from point A to point B. So to get from point A to point B, we build a bridge a bit straighter than that line. But every bridge, unless it's one of those suspension bridges made out of ropes, and I don't know if you've ever walked on one of those. I have. It's quite an experience. You whoa, wow, yeah, well, and if a gust of wind comes, whoa, it's scary. So yeah, we don't want to build that type of bridge. So a solid bridge has pylons or pillars that support it. And I'm going to talk about 3 different pillars or pylons, whatever you want to call it, supports that are necessary to build a strong bridge. One that you're not going to feel if you do walk out on it. Oh, no, hey, I'm going back. No, you'll feel like it's a strong bridge that you can have confidence in. So, what are these pillars? Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'll fill that in because it looks a bit of a squiggle there. So yeah, that's fill one there, and one there. So pillars or supports. Now, the first one is trust. To be in a relationship, you must have trust. You must trust each other. Now, to trust, sometimes trust has to be earned, so it takes time to develop it. But you cannot be in a relationship if you don't have trust. So trust is one of the first ones. Yeah, I'll just, there, trust. Trust. Very important. As I said in the episode just before this one, for trust you must have self-trust first, because if you don't trust yourself, you won't be able to trust anyone else. And it's only from that self-trust that you learn to trust other people, especially if you've been let down by other people at some stage. Having self-trust is very important. The next one is respect. You must have respect in a relationship. And I'll respect. If you don't have respect for your partner, then she or he's not going to respect you. And you must start off with inner respect, personal respect, respecting yourself. I might go off on a tangent here. There was once a wise man who was asked to address a small group of women that used to gather every now and then as like a woman's or a mother's group. And they decided a topic: how can we get our son, or how can we teach our son to respect women? And that was the topic of their conversation. But they knew they were going to have this, and they just thought they would invite someone that they felt comfortable with, a man, to give a male's point of view of what a woman can, or how a mother can actually teach her son to respect women. And the wise older man said, sorry, women can't, or mothers can't really teach their sons to respect women, because some things in life have to be taught by example. You can't just say something to a child, especially in very important lessons. They have to be taught by example. And the one who needs to teach a young boy to grow up to respect women, that's the father's job. He has to set the example of respecting women, and then the son will see that and hopefully copy that example. And then the wise man went on to say, however, you mothers, you need to teach respect to your daughters, because if a young girl grows up not respecting herself, then when she gets to older years, she is not going to be able to get respect from anyone else. So mother's job is to teach their daughters to respect themselves. And guess how they have to do that? By example. And this group of women, mothers, said, oh, now that's not so easy. And the wise man just said, well, I didn't say it was going to be easy. But that's how it is. We need, as a family, as a mother and a father, to teach our children to respect, and to grow up with respect, and grow up respecting themselves, so that they can have a healthy relationship themselves later. Respect needs to be taught by the parents, by example. So I think I've talked about that. Now the third one that is what I'm going to talk about from here on is communication. I'm not going to fit it in there, am I? I'll just put communication. Communication. So trust, respect, communication. That's what holds up your bridge. Now, some may say, well, what about love? Is love one of those pillars? I'm actually going to say that love is actually one of the purposes in a relationship. We're not talking here about architecture, of course, but love is one of the purposes that we build the bridge in the first place, and many other things that you could bring up. These are actually the purpose that we build the bridge. So person A, male or female, and person B, which could be male or female, but we have love in our hearts that we want to share. Everybody has a volume of love within them that we share. And that's the purpose that we build the bridge, so that the love can be shared backwards and forwards between A and B. So love is actually one of the main purposes that we might build this emotional bridge. But supporting it is trust, respect, and good, healthy communication. Now, I'm going to take this to a level. Oh no, before I do this, I'd like to point something else out. I was almost left this out. You might remember I've used this a few times. Energy, purpose and life then leads to information and consciousness and coming back. I used this in the episode, The Equation of Everything, which I think it was episode 3, I'm not sure, I'd have to check it now. But you can see the relationship here. It takes a lot of energy to build this bridge. And to build the bridge that is a relationship, it also needs a purpose. If there was no purpose in A wanting to contact B and vice versa, if there was no purpose, then why bother building the bridge? So it comes right back to the equation that I'm actually going to use this a fair bit later. Energy, the energy it takes to put into a relationship because you have a strong purpose, that then creates life, or it gives life to what you're creating. So that fits in with everything else that I'm going to be talking about. But it's also, I'm also backing up that you need sometimes it takes a lot of work. But you must also know your purpose, and that brings life to it. So, I almost left that out, but I'm glad I didn't. Now I'm going to go to a much deeper level because obviously I'm not talking about architecture or other types of relationships. Well, I'm now talking about something that affects nearly all of us. In fact, sometimes right throughout the course of our lives, and that's the intimate relationships that we have. It's important for me to talk about this because it is such a big part of the human experience. Many people that do spiritual type or this type of YouTube channel actually fear to go here. But I've decided not to, because I think it's important to, because it is so important to being a human and growing and developing and eventually spiritual maturity. Some say that spirituality and sexuality shouldn't be in the same sentence. However, I think, as I've demonstrated, spirituality is about deep, meaningful connection. And human sexuality, as long as you go beyond the lust stage of it, which is personal gratification, when you go deeper into it, human sexuality is about deep, meaningful communication. Yeah, communication. Right in the center. I've put it there deliberately as the central pillar. So, deep, meaningful communication. Now you think of it, deep, meaningful connection, deep, meaningful communication. If you look at it like that, do they go together? Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. So for that reason, I'm not going to fear going to levels that maybe some others do. Now, to lead into this, I've chosen to use an illustration that actually depicts a married couple. I know this to be true. I heard about it, but I know it to be true. A married couple that were married for well over 20 years, and they didn't have this deep, meaningful communication. And the experience I'm going to tell you, it involves a private investigator. And I'm going to tell you this because it actually has got a happy ending. But it's the experience of a woman who thought her husband was cheating on her. So she hired a private investigator to find out what he's up to. So, yep, private investigator, yep, okay. I'll give you a report at the end of it when I find out. So he followed this husband one night when the husband sort of disappeared for a while. And what he did, he found that the husband was actually going to a brothel. Now, this was in Australia where legalised brothels exist. So he followed into a brothel. But it wasn't a normal brothel. It was one of those specialist brothels where the young ladies are dressed in leather gears and have whips and all sorts of interesting items. And that's where he was going. Now, the private investigator then reported that back to his wife. And when she got the report, she went, "What? I had no idea he was into that. What?" But that's not where the story ends. It went on from there. An arrangement was made with the owner of the brothel so that when the husband made his next appointment, something special could be arranged. And what was arranged was his normal mistress, I think that's what you call them, mistress. His normal mistress said, "I've got a special thing for you today, but you're going to have to be blindfolded." And so, to cut a long story short, I won't go into the details, but at the end of the session, the blindfold was taken off, and guess what? The second person that was brought in was none other than his wife. Can you imagine the look of surprise on his face? And she said, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you communicate with me? Because, all these years, I'm into the same thing. But we just didn't talk about it." Now, doesn't that, I thought that was a classic example of where communication sometimes breaks down, or is lacking, or there's a lack of trust, that you can actually tell your intimate partner and reveal yourself to your intimate partner in a way that you wouldn't ever tell anybody else. And that when you can go to that level, then guess what that does for your relationship? Guess how secure that relationship is. It takes you to another level. Now, what we're really talking here about in this level is something that's actually spoken of by the psychologist Carl Jung. So I'm not going to quote his work. I have read some of his work, but I'm not actually going to talk too much about Carl Jung. But one of the things he talks about is the shadow. That we all have a shadow side to ourselves. And the shadow side actually belongs to the subconscious. Now, I'm going to use my board here, the other side of it. As I've said many times, there's three aspects to your spirit. Connection center, I'm not going to talk about the cauldron of karma in this one, but the subconscious mind. And the shadow is actually a part of your subconscious mind. And if you connect to it, many people fear the shadow, sometimes because it's spoken of as your dark side, the part of you that you should try and get rid of. We call everything, whenever we don't what is it about that? I guess it's our immaturity as a race. But every time we don't understand something, we call it dark. Scientists do that. Dark energy, dark matter. They call it dark simply because they don't understand it. Well, I think it's important for our spiritual evolution to actually understand your shadow side. It's not necessarily dark, but once you understand it and learn how to work with it, and I'm going to say that if you have a relationship, an intimate relationship with a partner, and you can move into and explore your shadows together in an understanding way, first and foremost, it has to be with adult, and it has to be consensual. I'll double that word, emphasize it, consensual. As long as everything is consensual, and you're adults. I won't tell you what I think of bringing children. It's disgusting. But it got to be adults and consensual. As long as you've got those two things, then what a couple does behind closed doors in private, that's up to them. And they should be, in fact, no one else has the right to judge. Some religions do. Don't let them put you down. By exploring your shadow side, it can be a wonderful healing source. Now, understanding your shadow. What is your shadow? I haven't talked about this. Your shadow is like literally the mirror image of your reality. It's sort of like, some of you may not be as old as me with photography, but in the old days, when you took a photograph, it was on a film and you had to take it and get it processed. And what came back was a positive, which is the photos that you show everyone, but you also got a negative with it. And the negative was the direct opposite of the positive. You didn't usually used to show the negative, but that was always kept in the drawer just in case you needed new copies. So your shadow and your reality are very much like that. The shadow is very much the negative or the opposite to the reality. And believe me, if you go in and you learn to explore your shadow, you can learn all sorts of things about yourself that you would never be able to pick up in reality. You can discover things, you can find emotions. Also, I mentioned that by going into your shadow, it can be a wonderful healing for you. Because often in our shadow, in our subconscious, which is part of our spirit, that's where we tend to store things like repressions, anger, injustice, which is why we have fantasies and fetishes in the shadow. It's part of your spirit wanting to take you into your shadow so that you can resolve things deep in your subconscious mind that are troubling you, maybe holding you back, like repressed anger, for instance. That's a toxin in your system. Many other things too, if you've suffered injustice. Maybe not even in this lifetime, maybe in previous lifetimes, but because you're subconscious, it's part of your spirit, it goes with you into other lifetimes. So by experiencing in an intimate way your shadow and consensually with an adult partner, you not only build an amazing relationship, but you also can heal each other. You can bring up all kinds of things that you cannot bring out in reality. I mean, if you did, you might end up getting locked up for it. But in an intimate relationship, done in a consensual way, sometimes you can make all sorts of games. By the way, the fantasy fetish that I mentioned here, that's only before with that private investigator scenario. That's only one of them. There's all sorts of fantasies and fetishes out there, and it's all coming out of our subconscious. So exploring that and learning what lessons there may be in there to learn, and even after, if you go into some kind of play session, afterwards talking about it is very important, and getting feedback, him to her, her to him, or I should say now him and her and her. But yeah, let's whatever your relationship is, feed that back to each other, and you'll find that your relationship goes to depths that you've never experienced before. It makes your relationship very secure, because you couldn't possibly, or it would take a hell of a lot of work, effort, energy to get this relationship with this person, and so that person becomes extra special to you. So, yeah, facing your shadow. Facing your shadow is something that we all need to do, according to Carl Jung. I've mentioned that your spiritual evolution is like going up a ladder. At some stage, possibly later, a bit higher up the ladder, facing your shadow is part of your spiritual evolution, because all the time you're holding within yourself emotions or feeling, whatever it is that you've experienced either in this life or past lives. Whatever it is you're holding in that shadow will be holding you down. It's like an anchor. So by going into that, clearing that, healing that, it's like eventually you get to be a much lighter person, a much freer person, a person who is much more in their power, because it's what is lurking in your shadow will cause fear. Fear is a fear of the unknown. If you don't understand it, you don't know how to work with it. You don't know how, or even understanding what it is or where it's coming from. Then it brings in fear. And fear has got a good side. If you're walking on the edge of a cliff, you fear falling off. Well, that's maybe a good fear, a good use of fear. Fear is the emotion that's the brakes in the car, if you want to liken it that way. you wouldn't get into a car if it didn't have any brakes. But the purpose of the car is to get you from A to B, and not to sit in your garage with your foot on the brake. So yeah, you need to get fear out of the way, anxieties, guilt is another one that could be in your shadow. So by playing out these things in a sense of deep communication, with, of course, trusting each other and having respect from each other, and also depending on what you're doing and what way you're doing it, having respect and having trust that respect will still be there afterwards. Yeah, very important. But it's all about this center one, communication. So that then takes me, I guess, to the next episode. Particularly these last three, the one I did previously, this one here, relationships, and the next one I'm going to go into, I virtually could have done them all as one video, but there's so much to say, and I need a bit of a break. So I've split them up. But the next one, episode 9, is about attachments. So this is another aspect really of relationships. So please, if you like what I'm doing, what I'm saying, please don't forget to press that like, subscribe button down the bottom of the screen there. That does help me with YouTube's algorithms. Much of the stuff that I'm saying, I know, isn't really favoured by YouTube, so they would like to push me to the bottom and keep me quiet. But if you feel that what I'm saying really needs to get out there, as I do, then please give me a hand. Okay, so bye for now, and I'll be back with episode 9, attachments. Bye for now.